Say the dead don't speak, but what if they do? Welcome to Confessions from the Ghost Box, where the veil is thin, the static is alive, and real voices from the other side break through. I'm your host, Jason Balbuena, and on this channel we explore true paranormal investigations, spirit box sessions, EVPs, and interviews with guests who've come face to face with the unexplained.
So dim the lights, turn up your volume, and don't touch that dial. This is Confessions from the Ghost Box.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Confessions from the Ghost Box. I am your host, Jason Balbuena, and on today's episode, we are going to talk about some of the Warrens' most notable cases. As you know from the last episode, we delved a lot into the history and legacy of the Warrens. So now we are going to dive into some of their most notable cases. Starting off with the Annabelle case. So today, we're turning our attention to one of the most iconic and infamous cases, a case that went on to inspire movies, legends, and nightmares. This is the story of Annabelle, the doll that seemed to come alive. This story begins in 1970. Two nursing students by the name of Donnie and Angie. I apologize. Donna and Angie lived together in a small apartment. For Donna's birthday, her mother bought her a vintage Raggedy Ann doll from a second-hand shop. It seemed innocent enough at first, but soon strange things began to happen. The doll would move on its own, not dramatically, just subtle shifts. Her legs crossed, her arms in different positions, and her head turned slightly. Then the movements became more obvious. Donna and Angie would return home to find the doll in a different room entirely. At first they laughed it off, but laughter didn't last long. One day they found notes written on parchment paper they didn't own, messages like "Help us" or "Help Lou." Lou was Angie's fiance, and he didn't like the doll one bit. Lou had repeatedly told Donna and Angie that the doll was dangerous. He claimed he felt a presence watching him. Even when the doll wasn't in the room, he was paralyzed, unable to move. Another time, he had entered the apartment alone and heard rustling in Donna's room. When he opened the door, the doll was on the floor and something attacked him from behind, leaving claw-like scratches across his chest. Terrified and out of answers, Donna contacted a priest, who referred them to Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, when the Warrens visited the apartment, they concluded that the doll was not haunted in the traditional sense. Instead, Lorraine said it was manipulated by an inhuman spirit, a demonic entity pretending to be the ghost of a young girl named Annabelle. This entity, according to the Warrens, wanted to possess Donna and eventually harm or kill those in home. The Warrens insisted the doll had to be removed immediately. Before they had left, they performed a blessing on the apartment with the help of a priest. But even the car ride home wasn't safe. Ed claimed that during the drive, the doll caused the brakes to fail multiple times until he splashed holy water on it. Annabelle was taken to the Warrens' home, but the disturbances didn't stop there. To keep others safe, the Warrens had placed Annabelle in a locked wooden case inside their occult museum. On the front, they added the now famous sign, "Warning, positively do not open." Visitors have reported feeling intense dread near the case. Some claim Annabelle's facial expressions changed subtly over time. One story the Warrens often told involved a man who taunted the doll during a museum visit. Ed said the man mocked Annabelle, tapping on the glass and daring her to do something. Ed Warren kicked him out. On the motorcycle ride home, the man had lost control and crashed. He died instantly. To the Warrens, this was no coincidence. To skeptics, another sensational tale. Now, Annabelle has become a cultural icon decades later after her story inspired the 2014 horror film Annabelle and later entries in the Conjuring universe. Though Hollywood dramatically altered the doll's appearance, transforming her from a soft Raggedy Ann doll into a cracked porcelain nightmare, the core legend remains the same: a seamlessly harmless toy used as a conduit for something darker. Today, Annabelle remains locked in her case at what is left of the Warrens Museum collection. Whether she was an actual vessel or evil, or simply a product of fear, suggestion, and storytelling, the fascination hasn't faded. So what do you think? Was Annabelle a demonic entity? I guess we'll never know. Let's take a look at another one of the Warrens' most notable cases, the Smurl haunting. So we're going to examine one of the longest and most terrifying domestic hauntings in the Warrens' career ever. This is the Smurl haunting. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the um, house that, in the case that um, was that inspired the movie A Haunting in Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. So let's get into the Smurl haunting. The story begins in West Pittston, Pennsylvania, in the late 1970s. The Smurl family, Jack, Janet, and their children, moved into a modest two-story home. At first, life seemed normal, but soon they began experiencing loud bangs, unexplained knocking, foul odors that appeared without reason, cold drafts and sudden temperature drops, objects moving or disappearing. By 1976, the disturbances escalated to a terrifying degree. According to the Smurls, shadows moved across walls, doors slammed violently, sometimes injuring family members. Walls bled dark, oily stains. A voice, deep and guttural, threatened the family at night. Jack Smurl often claimed that the entity would sit on his chest, making it impossible to breathe. Janet reported feelings of constant fear in being watched. The children were too terrified to sleep in their own rooms. Neighbors could hear activity. Loud bangs and cries echoed through the quiet neighborhood. Enter Ed and Lorraine Warren. By 1986, the Smurls sought the help from Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were already nationally known for their paranormal investigations. The Warrens had claimed that the house was inhabited by a powerful demon intent on destroying the family. Multiple entities have been present, some malevolent, some possibly attached to the land. The demons seemed to grow stronger as fear increased. Ed and Lorraine Warren performed blessings and prayers, attempting to cleanse the home, but the activity reportedly resisted their efforts, illustrating the power of the entity. The Smurl haunting quickly drew media attention. Local news covered the family's experience. Paranormal researchers documented the disturbances. The case became the subject of books and eventually a 1991 made-for-TV movie, The Haunted. Investigators claimed to record poltergeist activity, including knocks, unexplained cold spots, and movements of objects. Skeptics, however, argue that some events may have been exaggerated. Fear and stress could have caused misinterpretation of natural occurrences. The family's accounts changed over time, but regardless, the story cemented itself as one of the most documented hauntings in U.S. history. The Smurls eventually moved out of the home, though some disturbances reportedly continued. Jack and Janet later expressed relief but admitted the trauma stayed with them for years. The Warrens continue to reference the case as an example of a resistant, powerful demonic presence, a haunting that required spiritual intervention over extended time. Even today, paranormal enthusiasts discuss Smurl haunting along Amityville and Enfield as a hallmark of domestic hauntings. So the Smurl haunting reminds us that terror doesn't always strike in distant castles or abandoned buildings. Sometimes it happens in your own home to ordinary families in the middle of suburbs. Was the Smurl house truly possessed? Or was it a tragic mix of fear, stress, and imagination? That truth may never fully be known, but the stories endure, a chilling testament to the Warrens' work and powerful power of the unseen. Now let's look at another famous case from Ed and Lorraine Warren. This is the Amityville Horror. So we're going to journey into one of the most infamous haunted house cases in American history. It is a case that sparked books, movies, lawsuits, and decades of skepticism. This is the story of Amityville. Amityville, New York, a quiet suburban town on Long Island. Tree-lined streets, peaceful neighborhoods, and one house that would become a legend. 112 Ocean Avenue, the Dutch colonial with the iconic quarter moon windows. Before the haunting came the horror. On November 13th, 1974, 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family in the house while they slept. A crime so shocking it rippled through the community. The house sat empty for a year, and then the Lutz family moved in. In 1975, George and Kathy Lutz purchased the home at a remarkably low price, fully aware of the murders. To them, it was an opportunity. 28 days later, they fled the house, leaving almost everything behind. So what happened during those 28 days became the foundation of the Amityville Horror. According to the Lutzes, strange smells filled the air: rot, decay, sulfur. Doors slammed on their own. Swarms of flies appeared in winter. A cold presence lingered in the basement. George said he woke up every night at 3:15 a.m., the exact time of the DeFeo murders. Kathy claimed she levitated above her bed. Their young daughter, Missy, said she spoke to an invisible entity named Jody. The Lutz family insisted the house was infested with a malevolent force. The story exploded and the Warrens were called in. So in 1976, Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived with a team of investigators, reporters, and paranormal researchers. Lorraine, a clairvoyant, immediately sensed that what she described as a powerful, dark presence in the home. She claimed it was one of the most disturbing energies she had ever encountered. Ed performed a blessing ritual and said he felt something push back, an evil that did not want them there. Among the evidence collected by the team was a now famous infrared photograph, a small figure peering through a doorway, appearing to be a boy with glowing eyes. Some insist it was just a ghost. Others say it was just one of the investigators captured on film at the wrong angle. The Warrens firmly believed the house was diabolically haunted. Amityville didn't just become a paranormal case. It became a media empire. Books, documentaries, movies followed. But so did accusations of fraud. The Lutzes were motivated by financial gain. Their experiences were exaggerated or invented. Critics also say that the Warrens amplified the story for publicity. Physical evidence of haunting was thin or inconclusive. Some investigators who accompanied the Warrens later claimed the entire situation felt staged. Even members of the DeFeo family disputed parts of the narrative. The Lutzes, however, never changed their stories until their deaths. They insisted the horrors they experienced were real. So whether you believe the Lutzes or not, Amityville's impact can't be denied. The house became one of the most infamous and most famous haunted locations in the world. Countless paranormal groups have investigated it, though the new owners have long refused access. The house has been renovated, the address changed, and the iconic windows removed, but the legend remains. To the Warrens, Amityville was proof that pure evil can infest a home. To skeptics, it was a perfect storm of trauma, imagination, and commercial opportunity. Either way, Amityville became the blueprint for modern haunted house stories. So, what do you think happened inside 112 Ocean Avenue? Was it lingering energy of a brutal crime, a demonic presence, as the Warrens believed, or a story shaped by fear, tragedy, and human imagination? The truth may forever remain out of reach, but that's what makes Amityville one of the most enduring paranormal mysteries of our times. So, in this segment, we're now going to talk about one of the cases that I find interesting, the Enfield poltergeist. We're traveling across the Atlantic for this one to one of the most famous poltergeist cases in history, a case involving violent activity, levitation, disembodied voices, and a young girl at the center of it all. This is the chilling story of the Enfield poltergeist. The year was 1977. The location, Enfield, a working class borough in North London. At 284 Green Street, single mother Peggy Hodgson lived with her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy. Their lives were ordinary until one August when the peace in their home shattered. That evening, Peggy heard her daughters screaming from their bedroom. When she rushed in, she saw a chest of drawers sliding across the room on its own, stopping just before pinning the girls against the wall. Peggy tried to push it back, but it wouldn't move. That was her first sign that something was wrong. Very wrong. Over the next days and weeks, activity escalated. Loud knocking sounds echoed through walls. Chairs flipped over. Toys flew across the room. Cold drafts swept through hallways. And objects disappeared, only to reappear in impossible places. But the most disturbing activity centered on 11-year-old Janet, who began experiencing trances, violent fits, and episodes where she claimed she was being pulled by invisible hands. Soon after, the house became the focus of intense media and scientific attention. One of the most chilling elements of the case was a voice. Janet began speaking in a deep, gravelly tone. A voice, the witness said, sounded nothing like her own. She claimed to be a man named Bill Wilkins, who said he had died in the house years earlier. Recordings of this voice still exist today. Skeptics argue Janet was producing the sound herself using false vocal cords. Believers insist no young girl could sustain that voice for so long without damaging her throat. The case attracted the Society for Paranormal Research. The Society for Psychological Research, especially investigators Maurice Grosse and Guy Lynn Playfair, who spent extensive time in the home. They witnessed and documented numerous strange events: levitations, objects thrown across the room, and Janet slipping into strange altered states. Police officers, neighbors, and journalists also reported seeing objects move without viable cause. But the case wasn't without contradiction. At times, Janet admitted to faking a few incidents just to test the investigators. But she also insisted that one tiny percentage of the events were fabricated, and that the real phenomena were entirely genuine. Even today, the debate continues. So when the Horns visited the Hodgson home during the height of the activity, Lorraine Warren said she immediately sensed an overwhelming demonic presence. Ed believed the case involved multiple entities, some more sinister than others. However, at this point, the extent of their involvement is disputed. Some researchers claim the Warrens played only a brief role in the investigation. Others argued that they exaggerated their participation. Still, their perspective helped cement the case in paranormal history and inspired The Conjuring 2 decades later. So believers cite eyewitness accounts, recordings, physical evidence, the unexplained voice, the sheer volume of activity. Skeptics, on the other hand, point to Janet's admitted pranks, the chaotic nature of the home, psychological stress, clever hoaxes, and media pressure. Some say the girls were playing tricks. Others say no child faked years of sustained phenomena under constant observation. As with many famous cases, the truth sits somewhere in the shadows. By 1979, the activity began to fade. The Hodgson family eventually returned to a normal life, or as normal as possible after living through such terror. Years later, Janet expressed she wished it never happened. She maintained that most of the events were real and traumatizing. Peggy Hodgson lived in the house until her death. She always believed the hauntings happened exactly as reported. So the Enfield poltergeist remains one of the most documented and most disputed paranormal cases in history. Was it a genuine haunting? Or was it a troubled family under stress? Maybe a mix of both real phenomena and human exaggeration. Whatever the truth may be, the Enfield case continues to fascinate, terrify, and divide believers and skeptics alike. So we'd like to thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Confessions from the Ghost Box. I hope you have been enjoying this new season so far. We want to thank you again for tuning in. If you are liking what you're seeing, please make sure you like and subscribe to this channel, like the video, and let's get us up there as far as we can in likes. I want to get as many likes as we can. So in next episodes, we're going to be bringing in guests from here on out, and also still doing these types of um, uh, story-like things, giving you history of locations and things like that. If you guys have anything you would like to ask, please send an email to confessionsfromgb@gmail.com. Send them to me. If you would like to be a guest on the show, if you are a paranormal believer, if you've ever had any experiences, let us know. Drop a comment in here, and we will be glad to get in touch with you. Or you can get in touch with us simply by sending an email to confessionsfromgb@gmail.com. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Confessions from the Ghost Box.
Felt that static shift? You weren't imagining it. Thank you for listening to Confessions from the Ghost Box. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss a new investigation, guest interview, or message from beyond the veil. Leave a comment below and tell us what you heard, because sometimes
The spirits respond when you listen twice. I'm Jason Balbuena, and until next time, keep your signal open.